Thank you. So rather than focus on one project in a lot of detail, I'm going to go through a little bit of a lightning round of a few projects. Similar theme to all three. Just a quick sort of story about why these are relevant to this location and this presentation. I live in the neighborhood. I've worked and lived here since I moved to Denver in '99. And the first project is the first home that I owned and worked on it for 9 years, had no money. And it led to a passion to do this again and again. And so most of these projects we designed, we built in some way and financed. And so there's a combination of our personal homes, some development projects. And anyway, so one thing that you'll see, a consistent pattern in all of these, they're clearly modern. And we feel very strongly that a modern home done well fits very comfortably in a historic neighborhood. We actually seek those opportunities rather than shy away from them. So we would much rather have that historic context to build from, scale, fenestration pattern, and we have 4 projects that we'll go through here. They're all unique, they have similarities, but a couple of guiding principles that we use in all of these homes. One, I think very important, and I think it's lost in a lot of development projects today, and that's scale. So in most cases, we look very much at our neighbors. We're not about the maximum envelope. We're not looking at zoning to see exactly what the bulk plane is and how big this project can be. So in all of these cases, we are probably below the height limit. We could probably add a story, we could add roof decks, and that really was never the priority. So I think that scale is really a fundamental piece of building a modern home in a sensitive way in a historic neighborhood. Another part of this is, I mentioned briefly, the fenestration pattern. And we certainly did not shy away from lots of glass, but we were very deliberate about where we use glass, proportions of glass, transparency where it's appropriate, where it's not, and we'll show that in different ways in these projects. Third piece that I think is lost, and hopefully it's evident in these projects, but is lost in many new homes, is the quality materials. So this is not about one-sided architecture where we're slapping brick on the front and putting vinyl windows in. This is 4 sides of brick. All these homes, with the exception of the first one I'll show you, are predominantly brick. 80–90% brick, and then we complement that with materials that we feel are appropriate. Zinc or a lap siding or other masonry products. And we are building these to be here 100 years from now. We want this to be a context that we've contributed to, and it gets richer and richer over time, with these modern homes a big part of that. And finally, certainly not a part of the theme tonight, but all of these homes there was no historic home. There was really no demolition involved in any of these projects. So we sought opportunities where there was an opportunity to subdivide a lot, add on to an existing home, and so we took 4 parcels in Potter Highlands and Highlands, and turned what was 3 homes into 9 residences. So we feel that that's an important part of a growing city, that density is important, and it can't be the bad thing. I mean, it has to be done well, but anyway, so I'll jump into our first project, which is at 35th and Irving, not a historic district. The next 3 are in Potter Highlands. So I'll go through these quickly. I don't have a lot of drawings of floor plans and things, but I want to talk about the principles that went into these projects. So historic home here, typical classic bungalow, and there's a whole row of them all the way down the street that are consistent. They've been added on to, modified over the last 100 years, which again I think adds to the richness of the street frontage. In this particular case, we felt like this the scale of this bungalow was more important. We didn't do a traditional pop top, so we respected and restored the historic piece here. And it had an existing detached garage, which we kept. And we added on, which I think is the next slide, to the rear. So this was years ago now, so this was in 2000, 99, 2000, different zoning rules, but we added a two-story, kind of 1.5-story addition on the back. So the front is the typical classic bungalow where there's 2 bedrooms, a bath, and a little attic space. We added on a kitchen, dining, and living in the back on the first floor, and a master suite on the second floor with a little bunk room for kids. So kind of quickly, don't blame me for the color, I'll ignore that. But this is, you see 100 of these in the neighborhood, and they're quite lovely. So we restored, this house had been abused for many years before we purchased it, and that's why we could afford to purchase it. But over the 9 years that we lived here, we were always doing something. And so, still married, I remodeled a house for 9 years, and had 2 daughters in the house, and we have done it a couple times since. So my wife is a patient woman. But anyway, so we wanted to respect this scale. So the roof form is intact, but we also wanted a very modern home. And we had no money. So we didn't hire a general contractor. We built this over, like I said, many years. And we started with the original house, did the addition, but we felt like it was important that we respected where old and new came together. This particular one is a very simple palette material. This is this is a poor man's zinc. It's a galvanized that has a matte finish, and stucco. We try not to use very much stucco, but in this one, that was what was in the budget. And so we felt like from the street, we respected and restored that historic bungalow. And in the back, we made this space a very comfortable family home for a small, growing family. So I'll flip through a handful of images. So this back room was the dining and living room. And the second floor is the master bedroom addition. And similar to the 1-story scale of the bungalow, we stepped back on the second floor. We didn't have to. In fact, this lot could have been subdivided and built 2 new single-family homes. But we felt like that was more consistent with the scale of the bungalow. And we lived here for 10 years. And so this is the historic, front half of the home. Stair on the left that goes up to the second floor. Dining room up near the formal dining up near the entrance, and a little study by the front door. So I'll flip through these interior shots quickly. And that led to a project that we found in Potter Highlands, historic home, a beautiful home, but had been neglected for many, many years. And so it was a single family, nice historic home on a 12,000 square foot lot. So this is the new project, but I'm focusing on the original house. It was in desperate need of love, and it had this large lot that no one was really utilizing. And so we purchased essentially the lot. And through the course of negotiations and partnership with the homeowner, he restored the existing home. And we built a very modern duplex next door. And so the duplex is a larger footprint, but not drastically. But we tried to respect the scale and break down that larger mass into pieces that were comfortable with the historic home. And so this is a picture that took shortly after construction, and I apologize again for the quality of some of these photos. They were taken over the weekend with my iPhone, but this one was taken shortly after construction. And I want to talk about several of the things that we took into consideration that I think allows this modern home, like it or not, but it allows this modern home to be very comfortable in this right next to this historic home. And we felt like the front porch was a very key part of many homes in this neighborhood, but this one especially. And this site is unique because we have non-contributing structures on both sides, so I'm really focused on this one home. And so, several things. We felt like the front porch level needed to be carried through. We felt like we needed front porches that had a similar scale to the historic front porch. We carried that porch roof line across very deliberately. And then we respected the masonry sort of story-and-a-half volume and brought that across, and that became the base of our duplex. So most of the first story and a half is all masonry, a tone that is compatible but still very crisp and modern. And then where we didn't do brick, where we didn't use brick, we introduced a sort of a craft that we are very passionate about. We use a lot of steel, so tons and tons of steel in these projects, and you'll see that over and over. So instead of a brick rail around the front porch, it's a steel. The steel bay window, which is consistent with the proportions that you see in many of the historic homes nearby. And then the second floor is clad in zinc cladding, 100 plus year material. And so we took those relationships through and then turned the corner and treated all aspects of the home with similar care. This is the bad photo I was talking about. But the project was completed about 8 years ago. This was taken over the weekend. We lost a big spruce tree here. But I like the fact that similar to the bungalows on the street where I purchased that first home, the homes already have started to take on the personality of the owner. So the landscaping has evolved to be very different. Within the units, they've evolved to be different. And I think that adds richness to these homes as they age. They become sort of a reflection of the owner. So I'll flip through a couple more interior and exterior shots of the home. This is the back of the home. So we have this large steel door that actually pivots open. So there's a pivot point about right here, and this whole wall of glass has a hydraulic motor and lifts and becomes an indoor-outdoor space. We use that craft in many different ways, inside and out, and we feel that is consistent with the craft that went into a lot of these historic homes. So next project is actually my personal residence. So after we sold the project in at 35th and Irving, we lived in an apartment and developed this property. And this, again, is a half a block away from the project I just showed you. And that relationship of working in a neighborhood and getting to know neighbors directly led to this project. So this was is a historic home on another large parcel. So 12,000 square foot parcel, historic home, single story home that was, again, needing some love. And so a large parcel that wasn't being utilized, wasn't maintained, and we did an addition that was a challenging process because there's so many restrictions on the lot. And I'll talk through some of those. I won't get into a painful amount of detail, but one of the critical ones was the setback along 36th Avenue was only 5 feet. But Landmark felt that it was critical that we respect the historic setback, and so we did that. We had a 5-foot setback at the alley. We agreed to this property owner that we would build him a garage. And so we were left with this this footprint, and that was our site. The challenge with that is Alcott is the historic frontage street. And so without getting into too much zoning detail, our 2-story allowance was basically a footprint about like that. And so this is a single-story home for the large part, except for a 2-story addition, or a 2-story piece right here, which is 2 kids' rooms, And so this is our home. Very modern, but we again follow some of those principles that we introduced in the duplex. And that is, simple sort of respect for what is going on in the neighborhood. And our particular neighbor has a front porch that we felt was a key element of that home. It has a very generous floor plate. So this is about a 12-foot eave. And we took that line directly through, and it became our eave for the solid sort of brick mass that became our sort of first floor that we carved away at. And then the front porch became the line of our fenestration for the first floor. When we developed this project, we had two 50s ranch homes to the east of us, non-contributing structures. And so since we've been here, we have 4 new neighbors on this side, and then we had another contributing structure behind us. And I am a critic of a lot of things that go on, but I think there's an interesting sort of pattern that was created. We had an empty lot and two ranches that had no really presence at the street. And now there are 1, 2, and then 4 units adjacent to us that have front doors and front porches that face onto 36th Avenue. And while I was reluctant to embrace, the scale of the development next to me, it's really turned into a very pleasant, modern, but pleasant streetscape that we truly enjoy. We took some components and treated them differently. So we had, plenty of evidence of very interesting fireplace elements in masonry homes around us. We took that and kind of turned it inside out. We felt like it was an important vertical element, but we made it an outdoor fireplace, accentuating the sort of the courtyard that all of these doors, this becomes a really vibrant indoor-outdoor living space. And I'll show that in some additional slides. Again, we talk about craft, and this is something that we enjoy. We don't approach each project with the same pieces and parts. This is a custom door that we met with our welder and talked about, the challenges of privacy facing onto 36th Avenue, but these are site-built steel doors. Every single exterior door in this home was built for this project. And that translates to many interior elements as well. So this is the courtyard space in the evening. Again, a very vibrant indoor-outdoor living space. Sorry. And then the last project that I'll try to go through very quickly. Again, a bungalow on a large parcel. So this, again, became a relationship thing. We have a project here, we have a project on half a block away, and my home is a block away from the duplex. So this was an existing bungalow on a large corner lot. And through the process of working with the neighbor and trying to buy this parcel, we ended up purchasing the entire property, me and a partner, and restored, again, a large parcel that was even fenced off. So this homeowner really didn't even have direct access to this corner lot. Fence around it, some nice trees that we preserved where we could, but this home wasn't in bad shape, just tired. It needed some love, not any drastic additions or remodels. And that's exactly what we did. And so we had a small lot, and I think that, again, density is important. This is a traditional, probably single-family lot. Zoning allowed us to do 2 small duplex units. So these are both 600 or 1,200 square foot units above grade with a detached garage. And proportionally, we tried to break this mass, which is clearly larger footprint than the neighboring bungalow, into pieces that were compatible with that bungalow scale. And so here is the end result. So again, we articulated a brick in a very crisp, clean way, but tried to make it of a similar family to the historic home next door. Front porch, we felt like the front porch was a key element here. We had some different bulk plane restrictions, so we did not align the floor structure, but we did align the roof structure. And I think I have a slide of that later on. But this is that tired old bungalow, which is now has, easily another 50, 100 years of life because of these projects, smart partnerships that led to, we feel very clearly, again, a very modern home, but comfortable in its environment, comfortable with the brick. We broke this facade down, which is a fairly simple facade, into, again, a steel bay window, a steel storefront at the 2-story stair, and a much more delicate front porch, a very thin metal component, some more delicate columns that we felt was more consistent with the delicateness of some of the adjacent bungalows. A view from Bryant Street, and then looking down, again, this is a consistent pattern all the way down the block with very few exceptions. And we took some of those same rules in mind. This is not an accident that front porch line lines up exactly with, the neighbors. This front porch peak informs the location of this bay window and the transition at this corner. This corner steps down to be more respectful of that bungalow. And then the eave, while these are 1.5 story homes all the way down, we compressed this to make it very comfortable with the scale of the neighboring homes. Again, an image I like very much, looking down from one front porch to the other. We turn the corner, and again, we break this larger facade into pieces that are comfortable with the bungalow scale. Vertical windows, but still we're not afraid to use large panes of glass where we feel it's beneficial. And then we have a very different treatment for the second duplex unit. This unit faces on to 36th Avenue. It doesn't have sort of the same setback requirements, and we desperately wanted a canopy over this entry. Zoning wouldn't allow it because it was in a side setback, not a front setback like the front porch, but we still broke this facade down into pieces that we felt were comfortable with the surrounding homes. Looking back towards Bryant Street, again, another one of the same. So that's our projects. Turn it over to Dennis, and we'll do some question and answer.